Well, good morning, campers, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Camp Cryptid. I'm your host, Erica Fett, and this week I am so excited to get into more campfire tales from you listeners. But first, I'd like to thank everyone so much for hanging out for last week's episode on the Crosswick Monster. It is a fun little swampy cryptid out of Ohio, and I had so much fun talking about the little story that accompanied the Crosswick Monster and hearing your thoughts as to what it could have been. I'm still a little stumped on that one, so maybe one day in the future we can figure out what the heck it was. But this week I'm getting into more campfire tales submitted by you listeners. Now these are always some of my favorite episodes, not only because I get to hear stories from you all from all over the world, but because they range in the strange, mysterious, and bizarre, with topics ranging in UFO sightings, hauntings, cryptid encounters, and so many more unexplained experiences. But first, like last week, I have a little disclaimer. I have my dog, Theo, in here with me and two of my cats. So if you hear some heavy breathing, it is either probably my cat, Junebug, or my dog, Theo. So just a heads up if you hear some weird noises. Y'all know cats and dogs, they just do their own thing. And this is their world. We're just living in it, right? So they're unemployed and they boss me around. So that's where I'm at in my life. So I'd like to go on and start with the first story from Chris. And Chris says, "Hello, Erica. First of all, love the podcast, and hearing a recent episode regarding the strange energies, I wanted to toss my experiences into the ring. 1. When I was a toddler, my parents were looking through family photo albums with me and quizzing me on the people. One picture they decided to ask me was of my grandfather, who had passed away before I was even conceived, but I answered with absolute certainty and disbelief that they would think that I wouldn't know who he is. Because of this and the fact I share his namesake, my parents have always been advocating that he is my guardian angel, which kind of ties into my next story. 2. Regarding strange energies, I have noted for years that whenever I walk or drive under streetlights, they tend to go out as I approach, getting to about 20 feet away, and turn back on after I pass. It's definitely a bit unnerving in the moment, but I've also tried to rationalize it as my grandfather looking out for me and chasing off negative energy. It makes it more comforting." Well, first off, Chris, thank you so much for submitting your story, and thanks so much for checking out the last Campfire Tales where I did talk about some of those strange energies. So we had a story in a recent Campfire Tales where someone asked basically if there were any electrical disturbances that anyone else had felt. They would always notice that things would either electronics would fry or lights would turn off. So basically, I asked listeners if anyone had any experiences that were similar to that. And Chris did. So that's really cool that we have someone else that was feeling that exact same thing. When it comes down to it, though, I do like the idea of the guardian angel, right? That your grandfather's watching out for you. And it's one of those things that I always talk about in the episodes, like listen to the energies, right? Like listen to that gut feeling, listen to the hairs on the back of your neck standing up, listen to any little feelers that your body is giving you that is of energies that may not be seen, but still exist. So very cool. And I'm sorry that you have to deal with the lights turning off, Chris, because I'm sure that was pretty unnerving when it happens, but still, comforting when you think of it as, it's not a negative thing. This could be a positive thing. So I love that. So thank you so much, Chris, for submitting that. So yeah, with that being said, if anyone else out there is listening and you have ever had any weird electronic happenings around you or anything like lights turning on and off or electronics like frying out and just stop working, just let me know. I would love to get more into this cool energy thing. I love that. So this next story is going to be from Kevin, and it's not really a story, but more of inquiring about a story. So I love that. And Kevin said, "You should check out the story of Alfred Packer. He ate 5 of his companions in the Colorado backcountry during the winter of 1874. The movie Ravenous is loosely based on this." And I will say thank you so much, Kevin, because I have never heard of Alfred Packer. So I think that is pretty crazy. I did do a little quick look on it, and he's known as the Colorado Cannibal. And I have touched on stories of cannibals in the past, like with Sonny Bean and the Donner Party. And cannibalism is always something that intrigues me, right? It was basically when I was younger and I was looking up, serial killers like Albert Fish and the Sonny Bean clan. and Ed Gein, some of these people always intrigued me as far as cannibalism. And, growing up and watching like The Hills Have Eyes, right? And like thinking about like hill people and like feral people and like these like remote areas in the wilderness. It's always pretty creepy, right? And that's why I do always say when you go hiking, please, it's not Bigfoot that scares me, it's other humans, right? So just please be careful when you go out hiking in anywhere like in Tennessee or anywhere around mountains. You just be careful. Just always have rations and always maybe like have a GPS device. That's one of the things I think I personally need to buy is like a little GPS device. But the story of Alfred Packer is very interesting, so I'll definitely have to do an entire episode on that. But yeah, that's it's pretty crazy. I read briefly on it, and they were talking about how like he was stranded during a bad storm, but when he came back, he was like eating his fill of people, I guess. And they said he was a little delusional too, and it was pretty interesting. But yeah, so I'll definitely have to do an entire episode on Alfred Packer, and maybe one dedicated to those crazy cannibals out there, right? I'm been like a vegetarian. I guess I should say pescatarian now for like 10 years because I do supplement with fish like once a month, and it's just a little bit easier when I travel to eat fish, right? But it's always very interesting to me because even when I did eat meat back in the day, I was like, why would that be a thing? I remember watching, what was it, Alive when I was like younger, and it was about the story of this soccer team that got stranded in the wilderness and they resorted to cannibalism. And I'm like, man, I would like, just like, let me just, I'll like starve or like live off of like dirt and grubs or something, right? No. That's a no for me. But then I'd probably end up starving and they'd eat me. So great. Either way, cool. But yeah, so thanks so much, Kevin. That will definitely have to be a future topic and for a Camp Cryptid episode. And I'm very excited. Well, I guess I'm not very excited to talk about cannibals because it's a little crazy, right? But it's always interesting to, talk about the bizarre and kind of like taboo, right? And horrifying, right? It's pretty horrifying to think about someone eating another person. So that's a horror episode on its own, right? I mean, there's a reason why The Hills Have Eyes is like terrifying, right? So yeah. Actually, I did watch a good. What was it called? The Seedling. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. That just came to my mind, so I wasn't very prepared for that. But it was a cannibal movie, and I think it's a recent cannibal movie. It like starts with like a baby walking around holding a finger that's been like ripped off of someone. So that was pretty gnarly. But yeah, so yeah, I'll have to remember what that movie was called. But so thank you, Kevin, for that topic. My next story is going to be from Adam. And Adam says, "Hi, Erica. Greetings from Australia. Just started listening and have been enjoying it and finding it interesting. I am wondering if you find the legends of Australia interesting, like the bunyip, drop bears, big cats, and some stories like the rainbow serpent. Anyways, I have quite a few experiences, so apologize if it's too much, but you may find some interesting. 1. My first encounter with someone paranormal happened when I was 10 years old. When I was young, we would go to a small beach town called Port Arlington, Victoria, and stay at a caravan park in the summer for a brief period. One of these entrances to the park had a dirt road about 10 meters, give or take, which had a power line. When I was 10 years old, I was playing Mortal Kombat with my friends, and I went outside. I believe I was meant to go back to where my family was staying. That is when I saw something perched on the power pole. I can still remember it to this day, large, maybe 200 centimeters or 6 feet. It was massive. The sun was setting, so I didn't know if it was due to that or something else, but this thing was dark, very dark gray or black. It looked hunched over, and I think I could make out a wing shape. Honestly, I just remember its eyes, bright red, and I could tell it was looking at me. I don't know how even to this day I know it was looking at me. I must have been out there for a while because my brother called for me, and when I looked away and looked back, it was gone. My brother used to say he thought he saw a large bird fly overhead just before he saw me. 6 months later, I lost my mother, and a chain of events caused family issues. I became a bit obsessed with the paranormal stuff around then, read as much as my library had, and wonder if what I saw could have been the or a Mothman. Even to this day, I wonder. I have told friends this, and they tell me I always have a look of fear when I talk about this. A friend in high school who said he could see spirits, etc., believed this opened myself up and made me almost like a magnet, as this would be my first of many experiences. 2. In high school when I was 17, my father had recently passed away. One of my friends said he could see a very dark spirit holding on to me, as well as these black orbs. When I had an anger outburst, the orbs came closer to me and it scared him. It was around this time I began to hate being home alone, as I had a bad feeling all of the time. Back then I thought it was grief and rage. Eventually this thing left me. Who knows why? Maybe it had its fill of depression and grief. Another time, we went to the old Melbourne jail for a school trip, and one of the activities was we were locked in a dark cell for a few minutes. This girl started crying and begging to be left out as she felt like there was something full of hate behind me. This was about a year or so later. I am told I had a very dark evil aura in school. Luckily, these days I give off a different vibe. And then 3. A few years ago, I had moved out and was living in a rental. My housemate was at work and I was reading. So at this house, we had an armchair that was next to the TV at an angle and the couch opposite. Now, prior to this, certain events happened, such as waking up with marks on my neck like I was strangled and footsteps outside of my window, as well as an occasion where a knife was thrown off the kitchen bench and friends thinking they could hear talking. On this night, I was completely alone with the TV off and suddenly got this feeling like I was unwelcome and the air felt heavy. In the corner of my eye, I saw either an arm or a tail and what I thought was a head move in the reflection of the TV and felt like I needed to get the hell out of there. So I ran outside and got as far away from the house as I could. I came back an hour later and the feeling was gone. Not sure what happened there. Those are 3 that stand out the most in my mind that I can remember. But yeah, I would encourage you to look at the stories in Australia. We have a few. Have a great podcast, and remember, Australia is not just Sydney. Haha. And yes, thank you so much, Adam, for submitting those stories. This kind of goes back to like that where you can feel something, but you can't see it, right? These are like these energies that we're picking up. And yeah, and like I said, like listen to those energies where it's the hairs on your arms and the back of your neck standing up, because that's telling you something's there. You just may not be able to see it. And it's like, I really would love to have someone on the podcast who like specializes in like, I don't know, like the metaphysical, right? Like where you have like these like senses, right? And like different dimensions and like that we're seeing and feeling, right? Because it's like, or like, I don't know, I could get into this whole like weird universe that we live in. But I would love someone who's like really like knowledgeable on that to come on and like talk about it and kind of just dive into like, what is reality, right? But I think this is a great example of where you can feel something, but you may not be able to see it. And I think each of these experiences, whether it be, you know, people seeing the orbs around you, or there being auras, or feeling like you feel unwelcome and feeling like these heavy feelings in the air, right? And I think that those things are totally valid. It's kind of like when you're talking to someone, you can feel like the shift in energy, right? It's kind of like if I'm talking right now, right? And you probably, when you're listening to this, you're like, oh, she sounds like she's smiling, because 90% of the time I am. But you can always feel that energy, right? And if I'm like, if you're talking to someone and you kind of feel like the negative energy or like the sad energy, it's like kind of like tune into that, right? It's like tune into people's energies. And that's why I said in the one episode about the energy episode, a couple Campfire Tales back, go get your aura readings, right? I think that, you know, even though people want to like joke around about like horoscopes and stuff, like I deeply believe that like whenever you were born in the universe, everything came together, right, for you to be born. And it was like this beautiful thing. So like tune into that, tune into the universe, tune into these energies, and think outside of the box, right? Because I just think that it's like a beautiful universe, and there's so much that we can learn still as humans. Like we're still figuring it out, right? We don't know why the heck we're here, but let's make the best of it, right? And so that's why I say like tune into those energies and like think outside the box. And I love this. I think that was, you know, very cool. And I'm very sorry, Adam, for everything you had to go through. You know, when it comes to like Mothman sightings, like you said, you didn't know if it was a Mothman. You know, there is that side where people like fear Mothman, right? Like it's like, oh, he's a scary thing. But then there's that other side where it's like, no, he's like a guardian angel. And there's many instances where they think like a Mothman-like creature or Mothman himself or itself has shown up in places prior to these events happening where it was almost like warning, there's the Freiburg Shrieker. I think a mine, they said, collapsed and people were basically scared off by this giant like bird-like creature that wouldn't let people go into the mine. And then there's the Chernobyl bird. During Chernobyl, there were sightings of this giant bird flying over the area. So you have these instances where it's easy when we don't know what something is, right, to fear it. And it's super easy to like go to this part in your mind where you're like, I don't know what it is. But as a human, we're like, okay, if we don't know what it is, it's got to be an enemy, right? But I think there's the alternate of that saying like, well, not everything that's out there that we don't know about is negative or evil or out to get us. So I like to think that it's like almost like a guardian angel, like type of thing. So that's what I like to believe. I like to think that like, obviously like the Mothman didn't like go out and like kill anybody, right? So, I mean, obviously it could, right? If it wanted to like grab someone and fly off with it and go eat it somewhere, it could, but it hasn't. So I like to think that it's like a peaceful little, cute little flying creature. I don't know. That's just me in my mind. I'm like, oh God, that's my heart. I just want it to be like my buddy, right? Like my friend. But that's also because, like I said, y'all, I grew up with a lot of like fun, like video games and stuff like that, and playing like Mass Effect and all of these games where I could like romance all of these like alien creatures, I think has like impacted me a lot as an adult, because then I'm like, I just want there to be aliens, right? Like I just need this. I need this in my soul. I need us to be able to fly to different planets and go hang out with them, learn about their planets and learn about more about our universe. I don't know. I'm getting on a tangent. I'm sorry. But yeah, so thank you so much again, Adam, for submitting that story. Now, my next story is going to be from Corey. And Corey says, hi, Erica. I wanted to start off with a huge thank you for including my San Diego experience in your Campfire episode from a couple months back. I have another experience I want to share. This happened about 18 years ago, a few months after my dad passed away. I had just gotten into bed one night, and I'm not one to fall asleep quickly. A few minutes after getting settled, I was laying there and I felt the edge of my bed sink in, like someone had sat on it. While it was a creepy thing, I never felt like I was in danger. When my father was alive, he would come into my room and sit on my bed like that, so I always figured it was him stopping in to check on me. That is also, I believe, what really sparked my interest in the paranormal and afterlife. Thank you for continuing to make amazing content and being genuinely awesome. I can't wait to see what you have coming up down the road. Thanks again, Corey. Well, Corey, thank you so much for submitting that other story. I want to say, like, that is a beautiful story, and honestly, that's going to spark me telling my story and kind of what cemented me in also believing. Corey, my experience is very similar to yours in what kind of made me really know that there's something else and that there's more than we know going on, right? And a lot of people know me. I'm a very bubbly, silly person. I do not take myself seriously, right? But there is one thing that I believe, and that is that this is a mysterious, beautiful universe. And so I've told stories of my own experiences, like at Melville Castle in Edinburgh, you know, the haunted Airbnb that I stay at in Edinburgh as well. And also some of the haunted houses I've lived in. But the experience that really solidified my belief that there is something more out there is that I was very close to my grandmother growing up. My grandmother was there, right? And I was very close to my grandma. Like, she was like just such a pillar in my life. And when I was a sophomore in high school, she was diagnosed with cancer. And this devastated me. I mean, I was just absolutely like, this is like not real. And when she passed away, I just had graduated college and I was staying in a different city at that point. And I remember my mom calling that day and telling me like, oh, you know, grandma's doing good. Like, we just went over and visited her. And I was like, okay, great. Like, I'll make sure to come visit, like, you know, and see her. Well, that night I was laying there and I was on the outside of the bed and I was just laying there. And all of a sudden I got this feeling like my grandmother was right next to me. I was just like, I could feel her right next to me. And I just remember being like overwhelmed, like, and I'm getting this feeling right now too, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm telling this story and it's been so long since I've told this story. And I just felt her right next to me, like almost as if she was like right there. And I just felt like this comforted feeling, like I knew it was her and I didn't know what to do, but I texted my mom, like right after the feeling like went away. And I texted my mom and I said, hey mom, like I think you need to go check on grandma. I feel something's going on. Will you check on grandma? And that was at like 2 a.m., right? 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. And then that morning I got a call. I think I was actually like volunteering for a Boy Scout camp. And I had to get picked up from it, that my grandmother had passed that night. And I just remember being like, and my mom called me and she was like, you were right. Like, your grandmother passed away. And I was like, I know, I felt her. I literally felt her right there. So that's why, like, I know deep in my heart, but I felt very relieved in that moment, knowing that she came to say goodbye. And it's still heartbreaking, right? But I knew, like, she had stopped to say bye to me. So there's something going on, right? There's something going on in this universe, and I don't know what it is. And I dang well hope I find it in my lifetime, but it is a beautiful thing. And that is what kind of really cemented knowing in my heart that there's something more going on. There's energies, there's things we can't see. But yeah, so that was kind of similar to you, Corey. I maybe it was your father coming to check on you and telling you, like, hey, it's okay. And it's a beautiful thing. It's, it's sad, of course, but it's beautiful. But with that being said, I am a grandma this morning. My stray cat, Gabby, that we took in, had 5 little kittens. So that is a crazy thing that happened this morning. I looked on the little nanny cam in her room and I was like, I don't see her. I'm freaking out. So I got up really quick and went down there. And of course, she had 5 little baby kittens and we were hanging out. So I am a grandma now. That is why I got a lot going on. I got a little petting zoo here. I'm taking care of all my little babies. That's what's going on with me. So yeah, other than that, I just want to thank everyone so much for hanging out for another episode. I really appreciate everyone who takes the time to submit your stories and to listen to my crazy nonsense that I talk about. And I really appreciate all the love and support that you all have given with all like 30 something episodes now at this point. Holy cow, I'm going to be at 50 before I know it. I'm losing my mind. But yeah, I want to thank everyone so much for hanging out. I hope that your week has been great so far. And I hope that if you have any stories that you would like to submit for a Campfire Tales episode in the future, please go to campcryptidhorrorpodcast.com. There's a little contact section where you can submit your own story. And I look forward to reading them. I get so excited when I get new submissions. I'm like, yes, this is amazing. But other than that, next week will be the Fresno Nightcrawlers. I'm pretty sure that is the cryptid that won on Patreon when patrons voted for the cryptid of the month this month. So I look forward to doing a fun little episode on the Fresno Nightcrawlers. So yeah, if you like what you're hearing, make sure to go subscribe for free on YouTube. And like I said, I need to do actual videos in the future. So that is something I will work on when my little baby cat is done with the 5 kittens, because she is taking my video room. Which, I mean, I could do video episodes in there right now, but you'd hear like the little kitten meows, which is so cute, but also very distracting, because I don't think I could get my podcast done without stopping every 2 seconds to play with them and pet them. So yeah, other than that, if you also like what you're hearing, make sure to go give me a little review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. I believe those are the 2 platforms that you can do it. And yeah, thank you all so much for hanging out for another episode. And I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. Let's do some awesome stuff. Let's eat some awesome food. And until next time, take care.